The recent private job reservation bill, approved and then swiftly withdrawn, has received severe criticism. The Karnataka State Employment of Local Candidates in the Industries, Factories and Other Establishments Bill 2024, introduced on July 16th, aimed to reserve 50% of management level jobs and 70% of non-management level jobs for locals in the private sector. The bill faced heavy criticism from industries and entrepreneurs. The National Association of Software and Service Companies warned that such restrictions could result in loss of investment and jobs. On the other hand, members of pro-Kannada organizations led by Rakshana Vedike protested against industry leaders and tech tycoons who criticized the Kannadiga job reservation bill. They demanded that the bill be passed in the ongoing session despite its current pause. Siddaramaiah-led Congress government is in a tough spot now. What will the government do? Will it hold the bill or pass it? What do such steps by the government mean for the private sector? Will this disrupt Bengaluru's renowned IT sector or provide jobs for Kannadigas? Let us talk to Venu Kondor, the co-founder and CEO of Lob, to know what this would mean for startups in Bengaluru. Thank you so much, sir, firstly, for doing this with us.
My pleasure.
And the first thing that I want to ask you that now, though the Karnataka, the job reservation bill has been on pause, but just as a startup founder, what is your opinion about such bill?
I strongly feel that this is something which is very difficult for startups for the reason that we look for high skilled resources, right? As such, we find it very difficult to find them, right? Okay, irrespective of whether we hire locals or we hire, everyone out there, we find it very difficult, right? And with restrictions, it would become even more difficult to find talent, right? Hence, it's very important that government understands that, some of the cases which are regular jobs, right, which are, available in the talent, I don't see that would be a larger challenge. Thing restrictions would impose a lot of difficulties for us to hire within Bangalore, right, or within Karnataka, right? So then we may have to look for talent outside of the state, which in most of the cases we don't want to do it, considering we would want to have them locally do a lot of these things out here.
Also, recently, lately, at least in Karnataka, we see that the local language, there's a lot of sentiment regarding Kannadigas and the personal sentiment that we have. Do you really think that locals aren't getting enough jobs here in the city, at least in Bengaluru?
So, two sides of the story. So I do see that there are, it's a demand and supply mismatch, right? So you would find that there are a lot of people who are still not able to find jobs, and obviously for various reasons. And of course, there are excess of employees as well in certain skills, right? So the need of the hour would be to reskill yourself basis on what industry is looking for,
So it's for the
right?
people you
And
are saying, the employees, that they need to reskill themselves.
reskill because the industry and the ecosystem, they keep changing with the time, right? So what you have learned today may not be valid, after a few years, right? So hence reskilling is required, and we strongly believe that government could help us in setting up those skill centers that will enable us to reskill ourselves, and then we could actually attract more talent from outside and within Karnataka as well, to look for these changing times.
So basically, the governments should be investing more on the skills
Upgradation.
education level rather than trying to put such reservations so that the unemployment issue can be overcome in the state.
The government is also trying to see that how they can help, individuals from within Karnataka to get more jobs, which is fair ask. But at the same time, industry have their own challenges,
Yeah.
right? While they are dealing with a lot of their product related issues or expansion issues or how they go about it, but they do not want too much restrictions that will hinder their expansions or growth story as such.
And At least the Karnataka government, they had argued that this isn't reservation, but it's also it's a merit based thing.
Yeah.
How do you see
Yes.
that?
See, government has not imposed saying that, hey, take anyone without merit, right? So
Hmm.
that's not something government is saying. Government is saying that, hey, please allow, us to see that more Kannadigas get the job, or I would say the people who are locals, right, who have stayed in the state for more than 15 years, please do consider them more than the others, right? So that's what they're saying, right?
Also, there is the idea that they should know the local language, Kannada.
Yes.
That was the
Yeah.
major thing.
The government has been clarifying that the fine print is yet to be out, and they're also saying that, hey, we will listen to industry and then we will tweak those. So they have been saying that they are flexible to change some of these tweaks, right? But then we are yet to see that what government decides to do. But then I believe that they will hear the industry, because there are a lot of people who understand, who speak only Tulu, right? They would have not gone through Karnataka as Kannada as a language,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. Some people would have studied in only CBSE,
Hmm.
right, where the third language may not be
Not be Kannada.
Kannada,
Yes.
right? So would have born and brought up in Bangalore, but they would have studied in international,
Yeah,
degree
different
kind of.
schools and they don't
Exactly.
offer Kannada
Yeah,
necessarily.
they would have opted for something, but they would have been local guy, right? So to consider these things, government has told that we will try to arrive at some flexibility that will help, not cause any hindrances for the corporates or for the industries to go ahead with their hiring plan. So I'm saying that we are yet to see the fine print.
So, in case if these changes are taken into consideration, the
Yeah.
language barrier, the government takes that into consideration. Probably because there was a lot of backlash from the industries when the bill
Yeah.
was passed, and if the government is able to refine it, retune it, do you expect that this bill would benefit if there are certain changes?
So
Would
I
it be
believe that,
accepted?
as I mentioned earlier, any restrictions put would only hamper the industry. And while that is happening, yes, government would come forward and do the needful. And we have seen that the government has come forward and said that, hey, we are here, we will listen to you, and we will
Yeah, they
make those
paused the
changes.
bill.
Yes, right. Okay. But having said that, you did see that a lot of industry veterans have come forward and said, how difficult it would become. Largely, I believe that we are a startup capital of India. We are a
Yeah.
Silicon Valley capital of India. So, considering all these things, there are too many high-skilled employees required across a spectrum of companies, right? And that finding in a particular locality would be very, very difficult. The homegrown talent would become very difficult, right? Because the skills are that way,
Yeah.
right? And as I mentioned earlier, that we find it very difficult, either wise as well. But then with these restrictions, it becomes even more difficult.
To
To,
get the right
you know, uh, the number today that are there in the startup, there are quite a lot of them,
talent.
right? But then the amount of people, like 50% positions are still open, right? So if local person want to apply, he's free to apply. But unfortunately, the talent is not available. So you may have to go out of colleagues to really attract the talent to within the, and I believe that by having, we,
Hello, I'm so. I think there was a network issue, and I couldn't hear from I believe, like you were mentioning, I believe.
no problem. So what I was saying that there is a lot of difficulty in filling those positions that startup have in high skilled, category. And I believe that more than 50% of such jobs are still vacant and we are not able to fill up,
Hmm.
right? They are available for everyone,
Yeah.
including local and outsiders, to go ahead and apply for it. And because you are not getting, having those restrictions will make it even more difficult to bring those talent. And if you do not get that talent on time, products would not come out,
Hmm.
right? And therefore, the companies would not have an option but to go elsewhere.
Also, like you mentioned, as soon as the news came about this bill, a lot of tech founders, a lot of investors, they mentioned that we would rather go to Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and the governments over there, the other state governments, were also inviting the industries to startups, companies to invest in that state. Uh,
Yeah.
Firstly, I would want to know, do you think that this would then disrupt the IT industry, at least in Bangalore, and the whole startup culture that we have, if such restrictions are put, like overall in general?
So I was saying that water will find its own way. Okay, so as companies, end of the day, they have their targets that they meet in terms of year-on-year growth. They have those targets for their profits and margins that they have to manage. So hence, they would always look at options where they have to find them, right? So whether other states are competitive enough, whether they are good enough to have those skills, we do not know as of now, because it all depends upon each company's
Requirements,
expectations.
yeah.
Some of the semiconductor, some of them in AI, whether other states are able to do it. It could be, manufacturing, it could be IT. We really don't know. Right? It's about depends upon company to company, right? So
But it does give a player like a level playing chance to other state as well. There could be chances that company move to other states. Would it be a
absolutely they have
possibility?
their yeah, absolutely they have their choice to make, yes.
Also, we see that a lot of states have tried, putting such a reservation, pass the bills, but no courts have stopped it in case of Haryana and Andhra Pradesh. But this is a constant problem, and it doesn't seem like it's coming to an end anytime soon. Firstly, why? I mean, unemployment is, of course, a huge barrier right now that we see throughout the country. But apart from that, uh, why do you think it's so hard for state governments to generate jobs and have a reservation in the private sector that they need to take it?
Yeah, so I think for every state, the first priority has always been that how do they get the look, the state people to find jobs, right? If they find jobs, that would create employment. Employment will spend in that particular states, and which will increase their overall performance of the state, right? And of course, the people's problem has to be solved by the government. So I think unemployment is one of the first priority that they will look at, right? So every state, that they have tried in the past, they have been trying to help the localates for one simple reason, that there is a large unemployment that we do, and that has to be their part of their priority list. So of course, we will see, if it works for some of them, we will see other governments following it.
And what can be done by the governments, at least mainly by the governments, to solve this problem so that private sector also gets involved and take up more locals
I think
and have more
I
hires?
think collaboration. Akshita, I think it's collaboration in terms of, hey, industry would have to come forward and say that, hey, these are the kind of skills that we are looking at, a particular city or a particular thing. Here is the cost at which I'm looking. And we have seen those measures being taken by the government. I did see that a lot of emphasis has been taken on tier two cities, where government is investing to see that people do get the right talent at a lower cost, right? So we have seen in Hubli, we have seen in Bangalore, we have seen in other cities as well, other parts of the country as well, where people have moved as call centers. Banks have set up call centers in those places. So reskilling is one, and we have seen some of the initiatives from government to really make people from not knowing anything to not knowing, I mean, to know
Something.
certain things. Yeah, right. So we have seen, like in my business, which is logistics, we have seen government has spent a lot on taking initiatives to train drivers,
Hmm.
right? And because there is a huge shortage of drivers in the country, right? How you create those automatic facilities where these drivers can be trained and skilled, because for driving a heavy duty truck, you require special
Yeah.
license, unlike like a car and bike,
Two
right?
wheeler, yeah.
So facilities have to be created to really revamp their skill, right? So these are some of the things as part of the skill development program they have been doing it. But I think now the time has come where there has to be a lot of change that could be done to really suit the industry needs. Like for example, today we are talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about semiconductors, those things which weren't spoken about 3-4 years back, right? As much as it is spoken today, right? So how, such initiatives, or you can say incubators, have been set up to see that, those skills are being constantly produced in the required numbers, so that industry is actually benefited from them, right? Because eventually the skill has to come from our within country
Yeah.
itself.
So the main focus should be on skills, and when we say skills, you have mentioned at least about the AI and technology incubators. Are there any other skills that a person should know, at least if not IT sector, across all the other sectors as well, that should be common?
Yeah, so there are programs that are going in for manufacturing. We have seen a lot of packaging industry, training the people that how they. There are a lot of gig workers who have been learning. There are specific skills that have been set up. Training centers that have been set up for women, right? Where they have been pushed that hey, stitching is one of them. So like I have seen a lot of government, the defense sector, provides a lot of schemes through which the people who are stitching the uniform for the defense actually comes through a specific sector of people, right? So it's very important that other than IT and IT related jobs, there are mass crowd which are on finance, which are on manufacturing, which are on gig workers. So these things are also there in place. I think it's for the industry and for the government to work together to constantly upgrade the programs to see that they are beneficial for the current generation businesses.
So we are talking about the education level as well, at least at the
Correct.
undergraduate level, that it has to be changed there.
Correct. Correct.
Also, one last thing that I want to ask you is that here, at least when we were talking about reservation of jobs, one thing is also that it solves a lot of local problems, especially the
Yeah.
migration. In Bangalore, at least, we have a lot of water issues, traffic, pollution. These things also get reduced, and it solves other government related issues. Do you think that will that happen? Will it, if such bills are passed, will they be able to meet the needs of the residents?
I don't think so. We could solve the problem by not allowing people to come within because Bangalore, as such, as a city, right, constantly it's been growing at a rapid pace,
Yeah.
right? And every government, whether you are looking at localates to get job or not, but the constant interest of the government is to see that the how the city expands, right? And they have to work. So I don't think the purpose here is to see that how others, don't come to the city. The purpose is to see that how the localates would get more preference than people who come from outside. So they're definitely not restricting people to come and join Bangalore.
Yeah. Yeah, but there are like a lot of issues that there is a lot of people right now in Bangalore, and we don't have enough resources, let's say, to meet the needs of everybody right now. And one of
Yes.
the arguments that at least that was there on social media was that, if people reduce, automatically the resources at least become more accessible to the people over here.
That's the solution. The solution is about how do you constantly, create those resources so that, you give the right amount of growth to the particular city and as well as, you constantly give those infrastructure needs that are required, but not by, cutting out the people from
Yeah.
there.
Also,
Yeah, absolutely.
last
Reduction
thing,
in population is not the answer.
yeah. And the last thing, any message or anything that the local people should focus on, especially the youth, to get more jobs, like, to get jobs in the private sector,
I think it's all
apart from
about
skill.
Yeah, right. So as I said, it's all about constantly looking at what industry is looking at, right? Everyone understands that what kind of skills they already have, and the kind of fine tuning that they may have to do to see that they constantly reskill, right? And it is not about just the people who are looking for a job, but also people who are already in job as well,
Yeah.
right? So you must have to constantly reskill yourself to see that you grow in the ladder and also expand your horizon of the things that you are able to do on a platform, right? So therefore, it's not just about for the new jobs, but also to consistently for you to grow in your organization.
So at the end, reskilling, skilling is constant that
Absolutely.
anybody has to do, irrespective of whether they are a localite or whether they are coming from
Correct.
outside.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the need of the hour.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks.